All right, with this particular tutorial, we're going to continue to explore the burn and dodge tool, but this time we're going to add a black and white adjustment layer. So now we're going to be working with a black and white image and then seeing how the burn and dodge tool can work with that. Alrighty, so the first thing we need to do is we need to duplicate this image, and we're going to call it our working image. Okay. Now we're not going to do anything to this image. We're going to duplicate this again, and this time we're going to call it dodge and burn. Okay. And this is a layer where we're going to make all our changes, okay? So we're going to add our black and white adjustment layer first. So we click on our adjustment, create new fill adjustment layer, and we want to select black and white. All right, so that brings up all of these different colors. So what's happening here is we are going to adjust the reds, the yellows, the greens, cyans, blues, and magentas. Okay, now some of these colors will adjust, but some of them won't. Because if we look at the original image, we have a lot of red and we have a lot of yellow in this image. So those are the images, and possibly magenta, those are the ones that are going to adjust the most. So go ahead and turn that back on. What we want to do is we want to bring out the texture and the grittiness of this image. And so we want to bring down the red and make some really nice blacks in here. So we want some very, very nice, rich black. But then we also want to make sure we have some gray tones, and so we'll be bringing that out. The gray tones with some burning. And then we also will create more value tones in this area here and also in here that tends to be a little bit darker. So we'll dodge in those areas. And then if we adjust our yellows, we can see if we go up, that's just too bright. We want to bring it down. We want to have some nice value tones. We want to see the texture in this metal. So I'm going to bring it down. So for the reds, I put it on about a -4.9 or so. Negative, I would say anywhere between a -4 and a -9. For the yellows, I would bring it down to about -10 to a -14 and around there. Okay, and so the greens really don't do anything. I can just move this up and down and nothing is changing on the greens, so I'll just put that back to the middle. On the cyans, nothing is changing, so I'll keep that back in the middle. The blues, nothing is changing, so I'll keep that back in the middle. Magentas, really, I don't see much of a change in the magentas either. So really the colors that are in this image are reds and yellows. Okay, so now we want to click back on our dodge and burn tool. And we want to activate our dodge and burn tools on our vertical toolbar over here. So we want to select, make sure we have our dodge tool first, okay? Now we want to make sure we have it set to shadows this time. And we're going to do an exposure of 25. Okay, so these are kind of like the shadow areas that we don't really see very much. We can't see very much detail. I'm going to just slightly dodge this area and bring out some of the value tones in here. Same thing here on this top bar here, and also in here I'm going to bring out some of the more value tones along this darker area where there's a lot of rust. In here as well. And now if we turn also in this wood area, now if we turn off our burn and dodge layer, we can see how that has brightened up a little bit and we see more value tones in there now, but we still have nice rich black going on, which we want to have a range of black to gray to white in this image. Okay, so that worked out pretty well. So now I'm going to come over here and then I'm going to use my burning tool, which is going to make it darker. So I want to go to my whites, and I want to make sure we have highlights, this time selected, with a 25 range exposure. And I'm going to very carefully just kind of go in and make this a little more gray tone. Maybe make my brush a little bigger so I can kind of go over the whole thing in one swoop, okay? And also here. Okay, so I've added a little more texture in here now, and so if we turn that on and off, we can see that there's a little more texture. I kind of feel like I need to dodge this a little bit more, so I'm going to go back and go in with my dodge tool and make my brush slightly bigger, and I'm just going to bring out some of this area here, just kind of dodge this just slightly there. Okay, so alrighty, so now we have a mix of both gray tones, whites, and blacks, which helps to balance and bring out the texture and the grittiness of this image a little more. Once that's done, you're going to click on your print screen, and then you're going to come back to your Google Slide project. You're going to make sure you're on your value, because this is a lesson in value, and so we are going to make sure we paste our image in, and we're going to crop into our image like this. Okay, and we're going to bring it down to the corner, and we're going to enlarge this image all the way up to, I might want to move my technical specs a little bit here. Let's see, maybe just adjust this slightly. Okay, so then bring this like that. Maybe move this over a little bit. That's fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these boxes over. So I'm going to select the boxes and move them. And I'm going to talk about value tones here. And I'm also going to talk about value tones. Here, let's do this. I'm going to do the value tones in here, and I'm going to do the value tones. But first, let's bring our image forward. So we're going to go to order. We're going to actually bring our image to the back. That's what I meant to say, so that our arrows come forward. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this arrow to this darker area here, and then I'm going to move this, keep this arrow pointed towards this kind of gray tone in here. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to go back and look at my definition for value, think about all the terminology associated with value, and I'm going to describe the value tones that I see here in this image, in this area here as well as in this area. And I'm also going to put in the technical specs for this image as well. So then that means I need to go back to my contact sheet, and I need to go to my value image, and I'm going to go to my properties, go to my details, and I'm going to slide down here. Again, this was taken with an iPhone, and it was at f2.2. which is a very shallow depth of field, a very quick exposure time of 1/4015th of a second, and an ISO of 32, which is very nice detail. There's not a lot of grain, and a very, very wide angle lens, 4mm, which our iPhones tend to be very wide angle lens cameras. So now I'm going to come back to my technical specs. I'm going to put an ISO of 32, which is very low light sensitivity at 32, an f-stop of 2.2, which is a very shallow depth of field, a shutter speed of 1/4000th of a 15th second, which is extremely fast shutter speed, and a 4mm lens, which is extreme wide angle lens. All right, and so once you've done that, you are complete with this part of the Google Slide project.